Welcome to the Property Couch, where each week you get to listen to two of Australia's leading experts. Bryce Holdaway, co-host of Location Australia on Foxtel's Lifestyle Channel, co-host of Escape from the City on the ABC, and partner of Empower Wealth Advisory. Ben Kingsley, chair of Property Investors Council of Australia and the founder of Empower Wealth Advisory, named the 2018 and 2019 Property Advisory Firm of the Year. Stay tuned as they bring you the insider's guide to property, finance and money management.
All right, folks, welcome to the Property Couch. Hello, Ben. Welcome to our 300th.
Happy birthday, Bryce.
Yeah,
Happy
well,
300th.
Is it our birthday or is it just raising the bat?
Oh, maybe it's raising the bat.
Yeah, 300.
300.
Hey, it's worth reflecting, Ben, on honestly, we did not know what we were doing. We
still don't.
Said, that's fair call. And I would never have guessed 300. Like, never.
No, but it's become obviously something we love doing, and you know it's definitely part of our DNA, and hopefully we can continue to keep putting some roadmaps forward for people to take action around property finance and money management. So from that point of view, it's been an absolute joy. And yes, certainly an amazing experience for me, and I want to thank you for that, for getting us started and getting us on this journey, mate. You were the one that was hassling to sort of say, hey, I think we've got some good frameworks and some good approaches which have proven to work and to create people's financial peace. So why don't we share that with the broader community? And to your credit, we did, and here we are.
Here we are, mate. Thank you for that. 300 episodes later. I remember walking to get to this morning. I just had this bubble of excitement, right? And I was trying to work out if it had anything to do with 300, but it's just, mate, with everything that's going on during the week, it just straightens us up. We get a chance to have a chin wag with each other and riff it for, well, it used to be 20 minutes, Ben.
That was a long time ago.
That was a long time ago, but it just gives us a chance to shoot the breeze. One of the habits of highly effective people with Stephen Covey is iron sharpens iron, Ben, sharpen the saw. And I get to do that every week with you, which is just so much fun. Hey, we got a very special guest today. We thought we want to give a gift to our community, and I think the message that we're going to provide today will definitely provide that gift. But we've also got so that's the intangible gift, Ben, but we've got a tangible gift as well, which we want people to stick around for.
We do. We have a very exciting gift for our community. So it's our present to our cause and to our community and to all the people. Listen, we've got an exciting gift that we're going to share later in the show.
So there you go, folks. Stick around after what's making property news, because we are going to release that, and I think it's definitely worth sticking around for, Ben. But just quickly, Pippa sentiment survey. I think there's a deadline looming.
Yep, it finishes up on Monday, Bryce. So just go to the show notes, get the link. It's an important survey, gives us a snapshot in terms of what people are thinking about in regards to the property market, finance, and their money situation during this pandemic. So we'll be able to then share those insights into September. So we're looking forward to that. So if you haven't filled out that survey, it'll take around 10 to 15 minutes, but it's valuable for us to get a sense of the confidence in the marketplace right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Check it out, folks. We'll talk it through here. We'll get the Prince of Adelaide on as well at the same time, Ben. We'll talk through those insights. Hey, my Mindset Minute theme today, Ben, is a continuation of something that I've been really enjoying over the last 3 weeks, which is going through the book How to Win Friends and Influence People. So we went through part 1 in the first 3 weeks, which was the fundamental techniques in dealing with people. I'm now into part 2, which is chapter 4. And the title, Ben, is Do This and You'll Be Welcome Anywhere, right? And so I'm just going to do what I do, and I've got a life hack towards the end of today that ties into this one, Ben. So it's got it's woven in. But here's a couple of quotes. Oh, hang on. Chapter 4 is Do This and You'll Be Welcome Anywhere. So that's the title. That's the theme. So a couple of quotes, Ben. You can make more friends in 2 months by becoming genuinely interested in other people than you can in 2 years by trying to get other people interested in you. So that's the key takeaway here. Yet I know, so you and I both know people who blunder through life trying to wigwag other people into becoming interested in them. People are not interested in you. They are not interested in me. They are interested in themselves. Morning, noon, and dinner. Now, this bit's a bit disturbing, but it says the New York Telephone Company made a detailed study of telephone conversations to find out which word is the most frequently used. Ben, have you got a guess?
I.
It is the personal pronoun I. It was used, Ben, 3,900 times in 500 telephone conversations. I don't know which is more disturbing, the fact that we use I or the fact that they were eavesdropping on conversations back then, Ben.
Remember, or the fact that I knew the answer.
yeah, fair call. But I was used 3,900 times in 500 telephone conversations. So, Ben, here's a test. When you see a group photograph that you're in, whose picture do you look at first? Come on, let's be honest. We all look at ourselves, Ben.
There I am. Oh, yes.
There I am. So if we merely try to impress people and get people interested in us, we will never have many true, sincere friends. So, Ben, if you want others to like you, if you want to develop real friendships, if you want to help others at the same time as you help yourself, keep this principle in mind. Principle number 1 of section number 2 is become genuinely interested in other people, Ben. Now,
beautiful, nice message.
I'm hoping people are liking this. Let me know on socials if there's any feedback. I'm continuing to do it. I said, Ben, I've read it about 20 years ago. I'm thoroughly enjoying it. So hopefully there's some good takeaways. Now, Ben, I said before, my life hack is actually tied to this. So stick around for that. We've got a gift at the end, and my life hack will be tied into this. But today, Ben, we have a special guest, Jaemin Frazer, who is a podcaster. He has got the Insecurity Project. And we reached out to him and said, Jaemin, we want you to come on and we want you to share some of your frameworks because we want our community to thrive and prosper during these times. We don't want them to be weighed down by the times that we face ourselves in. So, Ben, we had a good chat, didn't we?
Yeah, we did, Bryce. I mean, it's easy to get overwhelmed in this negative news cycle. So, it was a wonderful chat, quite an in-depth chat. We explored a lot of areas. I really enjoyed the conversation that we had with Jaemin earlier today.
So let's cut to that right now. All right, Ben, we've got a very special guest today on our 300th episode. It's a returning guest. I am, of course, talking about Jaemin Frazer. Welcome back to the Property Couch, Jaemin.
What a treat to be here again. Thanks so much for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Hey, Ben and I were chatting during the week, and we thought that we've got a gift to give to our audience a bit later on in the podcast. But I thought that one of the gifts that we could give our audience is to help them with their mental wealth during this time, because it's challenging for everyone. And so we thought that you're very well qualified to help people not only understand what's going on, but to give them practical frameworks that people can walk through to actually help them with a number of challenges that they're facing. So I'm excited about covering that off today. But before we do, I mean, just to let our listeners know, you have been on our podcast before. So if they want to circle back, episode 179, we had our first interview with you, Jaemin, around mindset for being a property investor. And then we had you earlier in the year with Matt Schramer, who is an NRL star, and we were unpacking what it looks like for athletes in high-profile sporting arenas, what that looks like. But we haven't really covered off before what your journey to insecurity is, because you're the Insecurity Guy. Your project is the Insecurity Project. Mate, tell us a little bit about the backstory on how you've arrived to be, in my opinion, Australia's premier authority around this space. But in your words, let us know what the pathway was to get here.
Yeah, thanks. That's a really cool question, and I reflect on it often because I'm just so grateful to have been able to find a way to solve my own insecurity, so that out of the overflow of that I can be useful to others. But yeah, I didn't start out very secure at all. I was a country boy, a home-baked kid. I tell people all the time. Mum had this desire to constantly make our clothes, so they were never quite the same as the cool kids. Even though she cut off Stussy labels and glued them on pants, they weren't quite the same. So I was insecure about the way that I looked. I was insecure about fitting in with the cool crew. I was insecure, about a whole bunch of things, and so that really limited me. I had some natural confidence in just being able to make moral decisions. So I felt like I was able to kind of be responsible. But in terms of being one of the big boys or actually, taking my place, I just didn't think I fit in. So, my journey, I became a church pastor when I was 23 and had 10 years of leading a church, which was an interesting experience into why people do what they do and helping people grow and change. It was interesting because, Christians often outsource the change work to God. So it wasn't a very effective time in leading change, but then got exposed to the coaching skill set through a mentor in my early 30s and was just astounded by how practical and powerful these tools were for genuinely doing the personal development work. So it changed my life. I dived in with boots and all and had the confidence then to kind of start developing my own skill set to become myself, to become good at being me. But it wasn't until I went to write my first book that I really uncovered a mountain of insecurity. And I can still remember the day when I told my wife and my best friend that's what I was going to do, and the energy and excitement that came with that. Went back to the hotel room, wrote the first chapter of the first book, and then as I closed the lid on that laptop, this mountain of anxiety and dread and holy shit, what have I done? Now I've put it out there. What if I can't? What if I'm no good? What if no one cares? And I was just, it was this thing that I didn't even really know was there, but just this insecurity. You're not one of the big boys, Jaemin. You don't belong there. So that's not going to work. But I kind of, because of the intensity of it, I just thought, I'm not interested in managing this. Managing this is not a believable solution. This has to be solved. There must be a way to eradicate this fear. So that was my mission for the next few years of my life. How has anyone ever solved this problem? Has anyone ever actually eradicated insecurity so that they're free to show up at their best where it matters most? And so that began my discovery to explore how people throughout time have done this. And in that journey was where I discovered the 7 practices that everyone who's ever solved this, whether they knew it or not, these 7 practices showed up again and again and again. So it turns out it wasn't that they were smarter or more attractive or their parents loved them better. It was just that they worked at how to practice these things. So I thought if I could get good at deconstructing that 7, applying it to my own life first, I could actually solve this insecurity problem myself so that I could set myself free to show up at my best. And then I thought if I could really understand this framework, then I could teach it to others and be part of helping people end some really unnecessary suffering by not knowing how to do this. So that's kind of been my journey for the last 10 years to fully unpack that, and culminating in this book that I've just put out to go, right, this is my best thoughts around an intelligent, a complete, a really concise framework for doing that work of actually solving this problem, not just managing it.
So, Jaemin, we'll talk about your 7 practices as we go on. But one of the things I'm interested in is, and I think you've been very transparent about what your own journey is, and I think that's an endearing thing for people to go, okay, he's been incredibly authentic about his journey. So he's just not some pretend guru who's just coming on saying, do these things, and I haven't done it myself. But as you describe that you get to the end of the line, which is living a life unhindered, what does that actually mean? How can people actually define or try and understand what that feeling looks like or feels like?
Yeah, great. So there's a couple of ways I think about that. I think, to be at your best where it matters most is an extraordinary thing. I think we all have magic inside of us. We all have dreams and ambitions and hopes. Often in the moment of opportunity, the magic goes missing. The handbrake's on, the internal limitations, the self-doubt. So we kind of sabotage our own goals. We squander opportunities. We're limited. So to be unhindered means that you're able to show up. You show up in all your glory, in the essence of who you really are, and you're able to bring your gift with nothing to prove and nothing to defend, which is a beautifully free place to live out of. So often the energy people bring to life is there's so much to prove and there's everything to defend, which means there's energy being invested into a whole bunch of stuff that's not directed towards fruitful endeavors, towards contribution, towards growth, towards progress. So I think another way of understanding it is to fully become an adult. The definition of adulthood would be self-sufficiency. So lots of people kind of understand that financially to be self-sufficient. Great, I can pay my own bills. And physically self-sufficient. Great, I don't need anyone to dress me and feed me. But what about emotional, relational, intellectual self-sufficiency? Most people are so dependent on their world to fill their cup, to validate their existence, to tell them that they matter. So therefore incredibly vulnerable when the world doesn't give them back. And they're so driven then to do more and have more and be more so that they can get that from the world, which again is so much energy invested into stuff that doesn't actually give you any gain. So I think it looks efficient. I think it looks like you're able to direct all of your energy towards contribution and growth and progress in a really holistic way. And that's a beautiful thing to see people show up like that. Like, we all benefit when someone's unhindered. We all benefit from the essence of who they are. And that's such a gift to be able to give the world.
Jaemin, this is fantastic and really timely, obviously, in the environment that we're in right now. Even just this morning, there was more stories about the increasing level of mental health challenges that are going on through isolation that we're experiencing, or people in Melbourne are definitely experiencing. So there's two parts to this. The one I wanted to lean into first was some people are doing really well. Some people are coping, and some are even thriving and see real opportunity in these times. What are the sort of behaviours and traits that are you seeing in those types of people that are allowing them to lift their eyes above and mentally get themselves into a position where they can see the opportunity, as opposed to the negative feedback loop that we're seeing in the media constantly? How are they what skills and attributes and actions are they taking that allow them to do that and see past this period of time?
Yeah, look, the big thing that I'm noticing is where those people who are succeeding are directing their energy, as opposed to those who are struggling, where they are directing their energy. I always say that energy is our most useful resource. It is our most special gift. And so I would say the people who are struggling are investing all their energy into blame. First of all, there's a lot of angry people. There's a lot of frustrated people. We're in the hands of our leaders who are making decisions on our behalf, and we're at their mercy. So there's a lot of stuff that's impacting us all. And the interesting thing is we don't really have any control over it. But there are a lot of people who are acting as though they do have a lot of control and investing all their energy towards angst, frustration, upset, hate toward our leaders, toward the situation. So that's very natural, and I couldn't blame anyone for that. However, it's wasted energy because it doesn't give you any value. In fact, it spirals you out of control. It causes you to feel like there is no hope, and the mental space when you get into when you feel like there is no hope is very destructive. As opposed to the people who are flourishing, they're doing something very, very different with their energy. So they are definitely looking at what they can control, which is their own response to life. They're definitely looking at what the gift is in this for them. And that might sound strange for some people to say, what's the gift? Because they can't see any gift. But there are always gifts. And this season has presented some extraordinary gifts for those who are willing to see them. Gifts to take time out to develop themselves, gifts to take time out to build relationships, gifts to take time out to explore internal doubts, fears, and insecurities. Like the people I'm seeing are flourishing. They're seeing that that now is the time for personal change, to go, the world is in chaos. There's so much out of control. The only thing we can control is ourselves. So let's dive into that work. And those people are really noticing that it's making an extraordinary difference in their world.
I agree. I mean, the slowdown that's being forced on us, we will probably look back in, 12 months, 24 months time, and then we're running the kids around to all their sporting contests. We've got all of these functions that we have to get to. Life gets back to hectic. We're going to look back and go, why didn't I just spend a little bit more time in and see this as an opportunity to just contemplate things or learn a new skill or do something along those lines, i.e. do the work on yourself that, some people need to do. So I do see that as, if we're putting all of our energy into those thoughts, those negative thoughts, and then we're running down those negative thought, rabbit warrens, that's the challenge for a lot of people in terms of, and it's very hard to get out of that. So just on that point, when the mind does drift and the energy goes to those negative thoughts and you've got this negative thought loop happening, what's a circuit breaker for that? What's a technique or something that you can use to break that circuit so you can say pause, stop? I mean, do you have to get out of the environment? Like for me, it's when I'm in bed, sometimes the mind can wander and go off into, and like, okay, this is not where I need to be. And I use sort of a circuit breaker where I sit up or I walk around the bed and I come back and reset. What are some of the other techniques that you know of that do that?
Yeah, great question. One of my favourite quotes comes from Martin Luther, the Protestant reformer, who said, "You can't stop the birds flying around your head, but you can stop them nesting in your hair." So I think it's useful to know that we will be bombarded with all kinds of interesting, strange, unproductive thoughts. That's just going to happen. But we don't have to we don't have to enjoy them, we don't have to embody them, we don't have to take them on board. So I think finding a way to reset is extremely useful, and certainly peak performers kind of understand that constant course correction is a part of their game. So I'm the same. I have the opportunity at night to kind of, I'm always in my head, I'm thinking about all kinds of things, and it's easy to get caught up in a bunch of stuff. I actually have a cricket ball beside my bed. And I smell my cricket ball as a reset, which
there we go.
Which might sound incredibly weird, but I'm happy to be a weirdo. My wife says it all the time. You're such a weirdo. I'm like, yeah, thanks. That's great. I think you got to be weird these days. But for me, I smell the cricket ball. Like smell is the most powerful anchor. So it just takes me back to my childhood playing cricket. I'm watching test matches. I'm picturing Glenn McGrath there and thereabouts, and it's just as a break from the chaos. And then the moment you take a break, well, then you get some space and you can think. So I've got friends that use 10 and 2 on the steering wheel to reset. So they're in and out of the car. Every time they get in the car, they just take a moment to grab the wheel and just reset. They just calibrate where they are in relation to where they want to be, what they're paying attention to, notice the thoughts they're indulging, and just reset and just align themselves to how they'd like to be. So I think the big thing is just noticing that the state that you're in is not something that happens to you. It's something that you control. Your language, your physiology, your focus, that's your domain. So just paying attention to that stuff, noticing music, clothes, smell, food, all dramatically impact the state that you're in. So you have an opportunity to reset state as many times throughout the day as you like. And again, peak performers, they're not necessarily the smartest, strongest, most talented, but they are always killer at state management. That's something they never leave to chance. So anyone can become good at that.
Hey, you talked about channeling energy before. Can you, recently you talked about that as the Donald Trump effect, and how you see him as a gift. I think your thoughts around that will be beneficial for the discussion you were just having before. Can you sort of give us the highlights of the
sure.
why we should be embracing Donald Trump?
Dangerous territory to talk politics, especially the Donald. But I found myself directing a lot of energy toward Donald negatively because, my honest opinion is I think he's a madman. Like I think I've never heard him make any sense. So I don't like him. I don't like the power that he has. But the energy towards frustration, upset, annoyance, anger toward him, I just realized how unproductive that was. It wasn't changing anything. In fact, anyone who's upset at him, it doesn't get him impeached. It doesn't get him out of power. It doesn't change anything about him. So I took a step back and went, well, what's the gift of Donald Trump? Because I kind of realized that he's exactly who he's been from the start. There's no surprises. To get upset with him would be strange because I think he's just been the same guy the whole way through. And so the gift I saw for him and for me was to say, to me, Donald represents what happens when you direct energy in the wrong places, when you direct energy towards your own selfishness, your own greed, your own prejudice, your own tribal thinking. It's ugly. And And I think here's an example of the ugliness of that, and a chance to go, wow, if we don't deal with our stuff, if we don't take responsibility for our own emotions, it doesn't produce good in the world. It's quite ugly. So I think it's a really great reflection and mirror of what happens when we let ourselves just pander to whatever needs, whatever desires, whatever we want, thinking that that's the way to happiness. I'm not sure that's ever the way to happiness. So he's certainly been a gift for me to go, my goodness, I need to keep working on my own self and putting tools in the hands of people to keep doing personal development work so that we show up with beautiful energy, with kind energy, with energy that increases the collective consciousness of the planet rather than creating discord and chaos and leading us into tribalism.
So you were talking about doing the adult work before, Jaemin, around the emotional work, the intellectual work. What with respect to the place we find ourselves in now in a pandemic, what are the challenges of people who don't do the adult work, and then how they deal with what's going on, and what could be the difference? You've talked about some of the positive and the negative things that we can do, but where at times like this, when you have an event that we're facing, it's not doing the adult work early enough is the difference between how you get through a pandemic and positively and negatively, isn't it? So what are some of the things that that you're teaching your clients to do to make sure that they are doing the adult work?
Yeah, great question. I think, first of all, it's to address that there's a lot of rhetoric culturally about the fact that being an adult is hard. You see people wearing T-shirts, don't grow up, it's a trap. There's this idea that being a child is easier than being an adult. I think that's a really strange idea because being a child was difficult, trying to navigate a whole bunch of needs and you have no power to meet them. So you've got to outsource them to your world and dependent upon adults to validate you and approve of you and play the game so that you get that. So being a child, you're very vulnerable. So I'm not sure how that's so easy, but I think what would be incredibly difficult is to be an adult still with a child's operating system, to still be outsourcing all of your needs to the world. That leaves you so vulnerable. And in a place of chaos like this, where you've outsourced all control to the world, you're in danger. It's a real challenge.
So Jaemin, on that point, we as humans, we need connection, right? So we are social creatures. It's very much in our DNA. The challenges that we're seeing through COVID and the movement of people means that we can't sometimes be with our loved ones. Like I haven't seen my parents who live on the Murray River for almost sort of 5 months. I know someone close to us whose partner is in the UK and they haven't been able to get to see each other, and their life is, they're young in their sort of late 20s, early 30s, and they want to start making decisions about moving forward, and they feel like their world's in this holding pattern. So what are some of the things, some of the tips you can give them about dealing with these things, which are, again, outside their control, because they just aren't allowed to actually connect or see each other and touch each other physically?
Yeah, great thing. We are relational beings, and the need for love and connection is a central part of being a human being. Again, relating to the adult piece, I think that the child strategy is to outsource that again. So it's to look to others to connect and love. The challenge with that is until you own your own value and worth internally, even when people do love and connect, it's hard to receive it, and sometimes you doubt it. So craving acceptance and love and connection, then when it's cut off and you've got no plan B, you're in an awful lot of trouble. So I know for myself, a big part of my own journey, even not in COVID times, I felt lonely and isolated and disconnected at times because, people don't always understand you. They don't always get you. You can't always get the reflection of connection that you want. So I decided a big part of being the adult was to be the one who loved and accepted myself first. So one of the mantras that I really worked through was I deeply love and accept you. Now, and I run through that and I emphasize a different part of that sentence each time. So, hey, Jaemin, I deeply love and accept you. Hey, Jaemin, I deeply love and accept you. You kind of get the point. It feels different every time because to be the one who's there for me, firstly, it might sound strange and might sound a bit abstract, but it positions me again with my cup full, so that when there are times where people can't be around me and I can't get that need met externally, I'm not in deficit. Like, I love social connection just as much as the next person, but when I can't access that, my cup's still full. So that's a really important distinction, to take responsibility as an adult, to be the one that deeply loves and accepts and connects with yourself first. That changes everything.
Yeah, it certainly changed the way that some people go through this, because if we try and think about some scenarios that people are facing in a pandemic, you might have someone who outsources all of their significance to the job that they're doing.
Yeah.
And they may be in a situation where their work at best has been put off, but worse has disappeared, right? And maybe never come back. And they've placed all their significance on the role. What sort of process would you go through someone in our community who might be relating to that their sense of significance has just been taken away by an X Factor event that was totally out of everyone's control?
Yeah, so the first thing I would suggest for people is to be really precise about what that problem really is, because I think a lot of people are in fear at the moment of losing things that they hold dear, or they're afraid that their job won't be there, they'll lose income, they won't be connected to people. So I think that's an imprecise description of what we are most afraid of. The real crystal clear description of the fear is the personal implications of those things. So if I was to lose my job and I can't do the thing that I'm good at, well, then what does that say about me? Then I have no value. If I am cut off from friends and family and can't get acceptance and validation from them, well, what does that say about me? Well, I have no value and worth. So the deepest problem we face is our own opinion of ourselves. And when you can see it like that, while it's confronting, it's just game changing, because it just means the problem now is entirely within your control. You can't control what's happening with your job. Sometimes you can't control what's happening with your income, and you can't control what's happening with your relationships, but you can control your own opinion of yourself. So that changes the game, because then you get to do some really beautiful work with yourself to review the opinions you've formed about yourself over the years, often as a child, that have never been updated and never been explored because you've not needed to. Your world's kind of been intact and things have been okay. And when everything comes crashing down and those opinions are still intact, it's going to create some chaos. So to go back and explore those opinions and do the work of rewriting them is the real freedom from the fear and chaos of this pandemic.
I think that's a really powerful message, Jaemin, in terms of, some people are defined as great sports players, politicians. Some people are defined by their physical stature. My son with Jack, who has dwarfism, there is messages in there about that doesn't define who you are. And those people who potentially can use leverage in regards to their position, or if they're successful at one thing and they're known as a great real estate agent, or they're known as a great blah, whatever that is, that shouldn't be who you are. That shouldn't define who you are, because coming back to your point about contribution, there's some really powerful messages about, that has allowed me to contribute to the world. That's allowed me to contribute, and as you say, Donald Trump, we don't think contributes much of value to the world, but you found a positive in him. But those people who rise above that, and they are the ones who pay contribution to others in terms of add value, bring that energy and add value, is incredibly powerful, because they can live a fulfilled life as long as they also, as you say, love themselves first and know that that's the work they've done on themselves, to sort of say, these things aren't who I am. What I am is this person who wants to contribute, who wants to make a contribution. And with that, I get, reciprocation and love in return as well.
That's such a great point. I got to do a TEDx talk about that very idea, because so often people are on this pursuit of purpose and they're trying to solve the purpose problem. What's my purpose in life? And they get purpose intertwined with significance. So it's like, I matter because of what I can do for others. So they're on this quest to do all kinds of great things and show the world how amazing they are. But it can't be our purpose to prove that we matter by what we can do. I think it's our work to prove that we matter with nothing, like to just own the fact that we matter. And then, having solved that problem, we're free to show up and contribute with nothing to prove and nothing to defend, and to bring our gift to the world, not because of what we receive in return and not because of how it positions us as someone with significance. That's already squared away. We're then free to give without an agenda. And that's a beautiful energy to bring to the world. So, great point, Ben.
Jaemin, I don't think that in a soundbite on a podcast like ours, you can go very deep and very meaningful on this question. But what if, based on what we were just chatting about, then, if you've got someone who's listening to this podcast who knows someone, or maybe someone is feeling this way, where it's getting to a critical point in their thinking where sure, they shouldn't have the significance wrapped up in something else, but they're too far gone. And I'm talking about people that are in critical positions on thought process, right? How do you talk someone off the ledge, or how does someone who's listening to this help one of their loved ones get talked off the ledge in a meaningful way, just so that you can start to have that conversation? Because the insecurity problem is not something that you solve by listening to one podcast, but what contribution can you make to those people so that at least they back away from the ledge?
So I'd say that's a conversation about hope. I would say hope evaporates the moment you find yourself stuck with the illusion of no choice. So that's where people get on that ledge, where they're like, there's no way out. I have no options. There is no choice. My world is collapsing around me and there's nothing I can do about it. That's a very terrifying place to find yourself in. But thankfully, it's just an illusion. The amazing thing is we actually get to choose everything that actually matters. So, Viktor Frankl was the first one to really highlight that, the guy in the concentration camp who'd lost loved ones, they'd been killed. Every earthly possession's been taken from him and he's living in hell. People are dying all around him. They're getting treated like animals. It's cold. They're starving. It's horrific. But he goes, hang on a minute. To the Nazi officers, you can take every single thing away from me except one thing. You can never take from me my ability to choose how I respond to you. You can't make me hate you. You can't cause me to give up my life. You can't choose what I'm doing with my imagination. You might have my body, but my mind is back reminiscing about being on an island with my wife or being in a classroom teaching some students. So I am free and there's nothing you can do about it. And so he discovered the power of hope, because hope comes back in a real way the moment you realize you've still got options and they're real options. So that's the way to talk someone down from the ledge, to realize we have so much control over our own opinion of ourselves, over our own belief system, over our own story. We're not an actor in a story someone else has written for us. We're the one with a pen and paper. So we're the one shaping our own reality. So that is the only way out, is to understand the incredible amount of choice that we actually do have. If ever you feel stuck, it's just an illusion of no choice. If you can break through that, it's amazing what you can see.
I mean, you look at the example of Nelson Mandela and, on Robben Island for the decades that he spent in a cell. And he obviously, was a voracious reader in terms of soaking up all that content and doing that work on himself, that he could find those freedoms and those memories and create to put up with the circumstances that he was in. But to talk about delayed gratification and someone who serves out their time and, is one of the greatest, human stories that we know of in terms of rising above the repression and suppression that they felt, and the bigotry and everything that they have in the racist environment that they're in, to be able to get to that point. They are obviously people who have done the work on themselves and know themselves so well, because they've taken that time to do the slow thinking and doing that process work. So as Bryce says, you can't get this out of one podcast, right? This is a life's work. But some of these frameworks and the gifts that you give, Jaemin, are incredible in terms of, looking at these and validating and telling the story around these types of concepts that are really powerful for people to be able to embark on that journey. Because as we also, our minds can play, we all have down times, so how do you, when I assuming as you did the work on yourself, you were just able to control more and more of those negative thoughts and basically move them on quicker. And then you've got yourself into a mindset that allows that to happen. But my question to you is, do you often fall back? Do you take one step back every now and then, or Are you always taking steps forward?
Great question. I don't do things perfectly, but I don't think you need to. Like, one of the things I realized early on is you only have to live out of these frameworks semi-consistently some of the time
Yeah.
and to make an extraordinary difference in your life. So I have bad days, I have down moments, I get frustrated, I find myself stuck. However, it's an extraordinary opportunity to go back inside myself and go, hang on a minute, what choice am I pretending not to have here? Where am I blaming others? Where am I directing my energy towards blame and excuse rather than responsibility and choice? And notice I can get myself back in the game. Like, that's just unbelievable, because that means I have everything I need inside me already and always have done. And so I get better at it and better at it and better at it. And, I say this all the time. I feel like I walk around with an unfair advantage, not because I'm perfect at this, just because I understand how it works and get to use it some of the time. So, you don't have to be superhuman to embrace choice and responsibility. You don't have to be, an elite person to understand that it's your opinion that's the biggest thing to work on. Like, it's okay. You're going to be all right. Just start where you are. Start with what you have. It's amazing the power you'll find inside yourself to create real change in real time.
And not living to other people's expectations, right? That's the beauty of the story you tell.
That's
right?
all the child can do, because that child doesn't have the ability to fill their own cup. But the adult's work is to work out how to do that stuff yourself. And one of the key things I say to people all the time is until it feels like a less to more transaction, you'll resist it. So often we tell ourselves, no, I really should grow up. I really should take responsibility, but it's hard. As though blame and excuse was easy, as though hopelessness was a cinch, as though being a child was pain-free. When you kind of see that responsibility and choice is genuinely a better deal, like, oh, wow, like I could genuinely impact my state, my mental well-being, that my hope for my future, I could do that, then it's like, wow, great. Then it's easy to let go of blame and excuse. It's easy to jettison being the child and take the next logical step forward, because you know it's a genuinely better deal. When change feels like that, you know that progress is inevitable.
Yeah, well said. So I guess for me, we'll go into the 7 practices, I think, shortly, Jaemin. But for the last thing for me, because I really want to try and provide a gift to someone who might be going through the pandemic right now with some real financial challenges, right? So if someone is faced with losing their job, or someone's faced with losing their business, their minds start to go, well, I'll lose my car, or I'll lose my house, and I'll lose my status, and I'll lose my sense of standing within the community. And those are the sorts of things where they start to go into that negative spiral. So I guess, in terms of paraphrasing, so the work at that point is to realize that you've outsourced your significance to someone else. And so if you were in a situation where you did lose your business, or you did lose your job, or you did lose your fancy car, or whatever it is that you hold so dear, it actually makes a difference to know that, as you said before, that you still matter. But at the end of the day, we all think that we're not enough, and we all display not being enough in our insecurity by various means. Some people go and do missionary work. Some people have to have the biggest house in the street, and then everything in between. So I guess what I've learned from you over knowing you for many, many years is that the quicker that you can do the adult work, and the quicker that you can anchor who you are based on who you are internally, and like you say, know that whatever tomorrow brings, you'll be able to face it with the same resources and the same strength and the same wisdom that you faced it with it today. You can really start to give yourself a break, and then hopefully move from the child work into the adult work that you're talking about. But I'm really keen just to give you the final word on that, in terms of helping people better understand, if they find themselves in that situation, that this too shall pass. The sun will rise again tomorrow. And if you do have financial, let's call it devastation, you will be okay. You will be recovering. It doesn't mean that you're not a good person.
Yeah. So the gift here is to follow Yoda's wisdom. Named must your fear be, before banished it you can. So although it might look to be true, you are not afraid of the pandemic. although it might look like it's true, you are not afraid of losing your job, of losing your car, of losing your income. That is not what you're afraid of. You are afraid of the personal implications of those things. You have tied your identity and your worth to those things. And so if you were to lose them, the implication is you are nothing without them. That is just evidence of an opinion you formed about yourself when you were young that said you weren't enough and you were afraid of being found out as inadequate. It's just an opinion. Like, I love identifying the insecurity problem as an opinion about yourself, because opinions are the lowest form of knowing anything. Like, opinion, we don't use the word opinion for scientifically verifiable, truth, for empirically researched data, for objective ideas. It's a whim, and it's a whim a child made. So those opinions have never gone reviewed, and so they become true. And because you think you're going to be found out as inadequate, then you do all kinds of external things to make sure that never happens. Now you're going to lose those external things and be exposed to the thing you're most afraid of. So the gift is to go, you are afraid of your own opinion of yourself. That is what you're afraid of. If you can see it like that, you are immediately the one who has the power to change that. Insecurity is not created outside you, so you don't have to go looking outside of you for it to be fixed. It was created by you. You are the one that created it, and you are the only one who can fix it. The moment you see that, then you're in the game to do the change work, to then grow up, to then fully become an adult. No matter what is going on around you, you're going to be okay. That's the only time you're going to be okay if you do that work.
Yeah, so you put me onto a book, Jaemin, called The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. I think anyone who resonates with what you just said should quickly go and get that book. It's very quick and very easy to read, and will really uncover a pathway to what you just talked about. Hey, your latest book is Unhindered. You talk about the 7 practices. Can we summarize with what those 7 practices are?
Yeah. So practice 1 is to step into the light, which is a big part of this conversation. A lot of people are afraid of the light for what the light will reveal. So they run and they hide and they avoid. However, if you're going to begin any change process, you've got to see clearly what it is that you're dealing with. So the only people who ever solved insecurity were the ones that were willing to stop running and do an honest assessment of their current reality and to do an accurate diagnosis of what the problem really is. Typically, people try and solve the problems where they see the pain. So they see the pain show up with their job or their finances or their house, and so they think it's a money problem or a relationship problem or a work problem. They try and solve it on that level. But when you turn the light on and say, no, it's a problem with your own opinion of yourself, as we've talked about, then you're into the process. You can't change it if you can't see it. So seeing is the first practice. So that's practice 1, to step into the light. So practice 2, the logical question people ask when they go, cool, so it's an insecurity problem. Look at that. I thought it was a relationship problem. I thought it was a money problem. I thought it was a work problem. Look at that. It's an insecurity problem. It's very vulnerable, but I kind of get it. It's true. The next logical question people ask is, well, why would I have that problem? Why would I have these opinions about myself? And typically they go back to the things that were said and done to them. Or not said and not done, the moments of pain and discouragement and disappointment and failure throughout their childhood or growing up. And they go, that makes sense. Yeah, I'm insecure because my parents were divorced, or, I got bullied at school, or this girl rejected me, or my first business failed. That's why. But that's not why. That's got nothing to do with why you're insecure. We're sense-making creatures. We're storytellers. We go into the world and we tell stories about our experience. We have to make sense of it. And we make sense of it with 2 questions. Why did this happen? Question 1. Question 2, what does it mean about me? So we're asking and answering those questions in moments of pain as children, and answering questions as children do with a limited amount of data and maturity. So the pattern is children answer those questions negatively. So in moments of pain, why did this happen? I must have attracted it, deserved it, brought it on. If I was better, this wouldn't have happened. What does it mean about me? There's something bad, there's something deficient, there's something inadequate. So that, therefore, insecurity is created by us. We're the one with the pen and paper. We're not the actor in the story, we're the storyteller. So practice 2 then is to take 100% responsibility. And not just to take 100% responsibility, but to realize you already are 100% responsible. Like You created this. It was you. You're the one writing stories. So great. Stop looking for other people to come fix this for you. Because lots of people do that. They think I'm insecure because my dad didn't love me. Therefore, I need someone else to love me better than my dad to fix this. No, you're not insecure because your dad didn't love you. When you perceived your dad didn't love you, you decided the reason that was true was because you weren't worthy of his love. Your opinion. So that's responsibility. You're the one who can change this. All change comes from responsibility, even though blame and excuse is natural and easy.
Sounds easy, those two, right? Like, sure, step into the light, take responsibility. How hard can this be? But I mean, to downplay that is to just downplay humanity, really. That is number two is huge.
They are huge, but people complain, oh, that's hard. I'm like, it is hard. Great. What did you expect? And by the way, tell me your current existence isn't hard. Tell me living as an adult who's outsourced their significance to the world. Tell me that's not hard. Tell me that's all beer and Skittles. Of course, that's hard. Both roads are hard. That's a given. You may as well choose the hard road that's going to lead to life rather than the hard road that's going to keep you stuck.
Yeah.
You're right. They're hard.
Yeah.
So practice 3 then is to stack the pain. So the only people who've ever solved this problem have been the people who've done so from a place of great pain, which doesn't sound fun, more hard stuff. But this is the gift pain offers. Pain's intention is to move us from danger to safety. So you put your hand on the fire, it's supposed to hurt. That's pain saying, make some change with the position of your hand so you don't destroy it. That's very useful. So, feeling shit about yourself is supposed to feel shit. That's the point. And that pain is designed to say, hey, listen, what if we did some work on your opinion so that you didn't feel like this anymore? That's a loving message to listen to. So most people are avoiding pain, masking pain, medicating pain, and therefore missing a massive opportunity for self-motivation for change. So stacking the pain means to stop and do an accurate cost assessment to go, how is this opinion of myself that's gone unchecked for 20, 30, 40 years, how is this ruining my life? How is being a child in an adult's world costing me my job, my relationships, my career? Oh my goodness, it's costing me everything. This is a disaster. So just because something's killing you doesn't mean you have to pay attention to that, which we see with smoking cigarettes as a great example. You kind of think it would be impossible to smoke cigarettes in today's world because we know so much about, but plenty of people do, and they do so just by ignoring the costs. Easy. So you can ignore the cost of insecurity till you die. However, if you want to change it, then start by paying attention to the costs. And it dramatically increases the pain just to go, this is a train wreck. And therefore you create this threshold moment where you kind of go, yeah, there's pain in change, but there's far more pain in staying the same.
Yeah.
Then you've got every cell inside you actively leading you to go, whatever it takes, whatever the cost, whatever is involved, I'm going to do this change work now before it gets any worse.
You've got a window of time when you think there's the sweet spot, isn't it? From where people have got enough experience. It's available to anyone, but you've got a sweet spot that you talk about.
I think the midlife, 35 to 45 change window really is, and part of the reason why it's so conducive to change is because the pain levels are right. I'm not sure that young people have enough pain to desire, lasting personal change, and perhaps elderly people have too much pain or pain that they've suppressed too deeply. But midlife, there's a bunch of pain, but it's kind of mixed with hope that you realise it's not too late. I could make some significant change here and set myself up for an incredible back end. So it's a beautiful resource, this pain midlife. And it creates this openness to go, what am I wrong about? What have I missed? What input could I receive now that I've been closed to before? So stack the pain.
Stack the pain. So step number 1 is step into the light. Number 2 is take 100% responsibility. Number 3 is stack the pain. Number 4 is?
Develop a compelling life vision. So often people just use pain avoidance as their whole motivation strategy. Anthony Robbins taught me this, that it's like the pressure cooker, because massive pain leads to massive action. Massive pain leads to massive motivation leads to massive action leads to massive change leads to massive pleasure, which dials down the motivation, which dials down the action. And then 6 months later, you're back to where you were. It's how people do weight loss a lot of the time. So it's only half the equation. Sure, you've got to have a moving away from strategy, be clear about what you don't want anymore. But what do you want instead? What's the dream? Where are you taking this thing? What's your vision for your life? Lots of people have already shut down that question, by the way. I think it's the hardest question we get asked as adults, but it's also the most beautiful, the most important, the most life-giving, and it's always inside of us. To desire is human, so no matter how far you suppressed it, we all do know what happiness and success is to us. So to tap into that dream again and to kind of realize that without a quest, without a mission, without a desire and ambition to actually do something meaningful, what's the point of diving into fear and pain and doing some of this personal development work if you don't have a reason? So the only people who solve this problem are the ones who dive back into that desire and reimagine a compelling future for themselves and kind of realize I'm not prepared to die with the music inside me. One of my clients is an end-of-life pain specialist, and the reason he's my client is because it's his job to help people in great suffering at the end of their life. And he says you might think it's physical pain and suffering that is the biggest pain for them. It's not. It's always existential. It's an unfulfilled life. It's dying with the music inside you. It's disappointment. It's what if. It's I should have, I would have, could have. He's like, so many people are suffering greatly because they never found a way to fully show up as themselves. And he's like, that would be me. If I don't make some change now, that would be me too. So I think, again, we all kind of have this idea of something ambitious for our life. And to tap back into that is the only way you're going to solve this problem.
You and I, Jaemin, for those who don't know, in a previous season, I was a client of yours. You were my personal development coach. We moved into a season where we're mates. But back when I was a client of yours, you said, to develop the compelling life vision was that it's actually really difficult to know how to do that, right? So it starts with a blank piece of paper, and I just write, what do I want? And I remember as I go through and look back through some of those journals that I wrote about what I want, they were very... Mate, they weren't very inspiring, but what that did is it just gave me some cadence to actually get into the rhythm of continually doing it. And then I saw some patterns evolve. And then eventually I realized that I actually love what I do in the work that I do with Ben, helping people in our business. But through that process, I also worked out that I wanted to create a lifestyle that meant that I could do stuff with my family on the weekend. We moved down to the surf coast as a result of that, which I've got to say, when I first started to write, what do I want? And if I had written that, I would have thought I was mad. I mean, have you ever been in the water in Torquay? It's freezing. It is. But the fact that I get to serve the community that Ben and I get to serve, but also I now get to serve my own family and do the things that we want to do that includes, mountain bike riding and being in the water in summer and all those sorts of things is just an amazing it's an amazing gift that my wife started by encouraging that to happen, but I now get to get it as well. So I think the developing a compelling life vision for me, it's as simple as what do I want and continually writing that down. And I still do that once or twice a week, where I write that down and I just get what's in my thoughts and put it down on paper, so I can actually just start to see the patterns and also get to see that evolve, so I can stretch myself.
I'm the same. I have a cadence around that a couple of times a week. What do I want? And I still get scared by the answers. I still write some crazy stuff down. I can still remember the first time I wrote down, I want to lead a conversation globally about solving the insecurity problem. I went, wait, what? Like, who are you? Like, where are you from? Like, what do you want to do? Like, can you just settle down a bit?
Yeah.
Don't be such a wanker. Like, so I constantly write crazy stuff on there, but it's a beautiful thing, because the deepest part of me goes, hey, Jaemin, that is what you want. You desire to live a meaningful life and make a contribution. But all kinds of extraordinary things. Every good thing in my life has come from being clear about what I want and realizing that is what we have capacity for as human beings. We can get what we want. It's not easy, but we have the power to create our own future. And it doesn't happen by someone else. It doesn't happen by waiting for it. It happens by being in the driver's seat. So got to be clear about what that end point is.
Very good. So number 4 was develop a compelling life vision. Number 5?
Yeah, and just on 4, just one more thing. So this kind of mirrors the hero's journey in many ways, and the hero's always got to have a quest. Like, if you don't have a quest, what's the point of fighting the dragon? So if Frodo's not compelled to destroy the ring in the Lake of Fire, why is he getting attacked by orcs every day? Like, just go back to bed, Frodo, where it's safe. So I think it all gets way too hard very quickly if you don't have a compelling reason why it's important for you to overcome doubt, fear, and insecurity and actually show up at your best. So that's a very key part.
Yeah, good one.
Practice 5, get help from someone who doesn't care about you. I know I've spoken about this one before on the podcast. I love this. I love pushing this one as far as I possibly can, because typically when people kind of realize they need some help, they get help from people who do care. And the people who care can't help but get in the way because they care. So they want to encourage, they want to support, they want to believe in, they want to pump your tires up, especially with insecurity. They want to fix it for you. So look, you're awesome. I think you're awesome. I think you're incredible. You can do whatever you want to do. Like, don't ever doubt yourself. We get memes all the time on social media. Hey, girlfriend, just believe you are enough. Like, oh, thanks. That's great. Problem solved. It's like, no, that's not how insecurity gets fixed. If it could be fixed outside of you, it would have already been fixed outside of you. Surely our mums have told us enough that we're beautiful and we're worthy. Like, so the point is, no one's coming to save you. No one is coming to save you. To get over that, that's a big deal. You will need some help, but you need to find a wisdom character who's not going to get in the way. So in the hero's journey, there's always a guide. There's always a Gandalf, a Yoda, a Mr. Miyagi, a Dumbledore. The important distinction is they are not the hero, because in the moment of trial, they will not be there. The hero will still have to go fight the dragon. So I love thinking about how to be useful to people without getting in the way. So because insecurity is such a strong truth for most people, like they don't think it's a story, it's their lived experience. It's very hard to be objective about it. So you do need someone with no vested interest who's able to get you out of story and into process so that you can see stuff you've never seen before. And with that objectivity and the tools and frameworks, then you can see clearly the work you've got to do. But practice 6 is to go be the hero. So, eventually you've got to go face the thing you're most afraid of. This fear of, what if I get found out as not being good enough? Great, there's only one way to find out. You got to go look at that in the eyes.
Take the red or the blue pill.
You got to. There's no other way. And so you're going to have to face this thing you're most afraid of. You're going to have to go face the monster. And the amazing thing is, you either die or come out the other side reborn. So if it's true, if you are worthless, if you are no good, if you are not enough, if that is actually true about you, you won't recover from that. That's the end of the game. The thing you're most afraid of. If you find out that's true, you're done.
Yeah.
But if you go and explore the thing you're most afraid of and realize it's just a work of fiction, that monster only has ever existed in your mind. It was just the opinion of a 4-year-old that's never been checked. If you find that's true, then that whole story gets deconstructed and the monster evaporates. And then you are free to move to practice 7, which is to rewrite the story. That is when you emerge reborn. That is when you emerge as an adult. That is when you emerge with your cup full. That's when you emerge with the power to recreate a story that's compelling and beautiful and enlarging. And off the back of that script, you go and do meaningful work in the world. So often people want to rush to practice 7. They're like, oh, cool, rewrite the story. Surely we don't have to go back and do all this hard work. Can I just write some affirmations on my mirror and tell myself I'm awesome 3 times a day? I mean, you can do whatever you want. It won't work, because the moment you get tired or stressed or anxious, that old narrative, which has always been there, will just come out like it always has. You kind of got to deconstruct it first so the slate is clear, so that then you can use that pen and paper to good effect and rewrite a compelling story, and then align yourself to that story consistently just for a few weeks. It's amazing how quickly it takes for that new story to become the new default. And then you find yourself unhindered.
Mate, that's a great framework. Ben and I wanted to give the gift of some positive frameworks for our community to actually to use to live a life unhindered. But my question to you is, does it work for everyone? And my context is this: Ben's a Collingwood supporter. right? So I'm sure it works for most people, but Collingwood supporters?
The most winning club in AFL history. I think it already has worked, Bryce.
I took someone through this process the other day and they said, well, Jaemin, I'm feeling really optimistic about this. And I said, I reckon I can offer you something better than optimism. I think I can offer you predictability and certainty. I love looking at human behavior as scientific, as systems. This is not a unique problem. The solution is not abstract and unique. Every human being has to face this question of who am I and do I matter? So therefore, insecurity is a universal issue. But just like any other problem, it can be solved. And the moment you understand how it's solved, then the predictability of the solution becomes inevitable. It's like, cool, if you practice these 7 things, you cannot not experience change. Your end result is just the manifestation of the story you've already been living out of. So if you deconstruct that story and write a new one, you couldn't not experience the fruit of that new story. That's how stories work. All we have is stories. So, of course, anyone who wants to be free, you can. You will. Like, of course. You don't have to be special. This is available to everyone.
Do the work, right?
Absolutely.
You just got to do the work.
So Ben, what I'm hearing is there's hope for you, mate. I thought that you would be forever hamstrung by your choice of football team, but Jaemin has confirmed that there is hope for you.
Mate, after you were robbed on the weekend, I mean, you should be looking at all manner of religious callings or whatever you can get because you were robbed, right?
Well, you got.
I saw that last 2
It
minutes.
was an amazing kick after the siren, but the down the ground to get that kick was just pure insanity, right?
And the person who was meant to kick it didn't even kick it, like he wasn't the closest to the ball, right? You were robbed. You were absolutely robbed.
I appreciate that, Ben, but no, but hey, Jaemin, I think that the insights that you've provided over the last 45 minutes or so have been. They were life-changing for me. I've got to say, I've got to declare it to our community. They were life-changing to me. I know that Ben has read your book. We've had you come and speak to our team. We know that your fingerprints and DNA are across our company. So we're believers, right? But I genuinely believe that the frameworks that you talked about today, even if people was just to take a few bullet points away at the very least, they would make an enormous change. And hopefully our goal is to help them navigate a pandemic better than they were prior to listening to us. So, mate, we appreciate, as always, you coming and joining us on the Property Couch. For those folks, we're going to put a link in the show notes. Jaemin has just released his book. I've got a copy here. I've got his audio book. I believe, Jaemin, you took my advice and you're giving out a handful of copies for free. So if you go to unhinderedbook.com, you can actually, for as long as Jaemin's got copies, you can get a copy for free. So I thoroughly recommend that you go and do that and really dive into the framework that we've just been talking about today. But Ben, I think everyone in our community should benefit from that.
Oh, mate, I'm going straight to the website after this and grabbing my copy and getting it sent home. That's for sure.
Well, you got a heads up because we're recording this in the morning. It doesn't go until the afternoon. But Jaemin, thanks again for coming on. Thanks again for being so transparent at the beginning about your own insecurity journey. And mate, if anyone wants to listen to any more, you've got your own podcast called The Insecurity Project. But mate, thanks very much for joining us on the Property Couch.
Thanks for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Well, there you go, Ben. A few wisdom bombs there. But the principal hope for you and me as we turn 300 was that we just wanted to give back to our community, and because part of it is about financial wealth, and we've talked about this a few times, but we're just as interested in our community's mental wealth as well. So we hope that contributed to that.
Yeah, I think, Bryce, I mean, the thing I love about Jaemin is his language, his sincerity, and his authenticity, right? I mean, the wording selection that he's using, I think, is on point in terms of how he frames those things up, and that should allow you to we always talk about, people will tolerate your views, but they'll act on their own conclusions. Now, you can see the head state and the life that Jaemin is leading is all on the back of this, ability to be able to do the work on himself, do the process, and then come out the other side and show those vulnerabilities in terms of to say that, hey, he's not always perfect and you won't always be perfect. But if you adopt some of those principles and you come to the conclusion that you could have a better story for yourself, that's really what we're about too, right? We're in the financial transformation business, right? We want to help people organize their money. We want to help them get control of that and then put that money to work so they can hit not their financial goals, but their personal goals to live the life that they want to live, right? In financial peace. And that is where, and we're saying we've always been consistent. Being wealthy and rich does not bring you happiness.
No.
Does not bring you, and never will. But having experiences and identifying, the vision of where you want to go short, medium, and longer term, and being able to achieve that and being able to help people on that journey with, a money management system that works. It's a no BS money management system. It's easy to use in terms of money smarts, and then getting through that program in terms of once you're in control of money, every dollar's got a job to do, Bryce, and you want to make that money work for you. And all of a sudden, over time, through delayed gratification, you will get there. And that's been our message.
Dave Ramsey says, "Ben, money is simple, behaviour is hard." We're hoping, we agree that money is simple. We agree that our frameworks are simple. We agree that the mechanics of making $2,000 a week are simple, but we also agree that behaviour is hard. So hopefully the last 45 minutes or so has helped people understand, well, if behaviour is hard, that's just made it a little easier for me to get my head around. So there you go, folks. Hey, Ben, my life hack today is an extension of my mindset minute. So become genuinely interested in other people was the theme earlier. My life hack is, I've said this before, but it's so important that I want to say it again, that I landed a job in television using a 4-letter F word. And this 4-letter F word was the difference between me getting the job and me not getting the job. And that 4-letter F word is form, Ben, FORM. And I use that as an acronym to help me whenever I want to learn about other people. So R is for recreation, F is for family, O is for occupation, and M is for message. And you can turn that out. You can move those letters around as you need in whichever scenario you're in. But I recommend you start with R first and talk about what other people are genuinely interested in. And that'll actually give you a tool on how you can become genuinely interested in other people. Because the first question I ask, Ben, generally is, what do you do when you're not working? I model this every single time. Whenever we have a new starter in our business, we have Friday afternoon drinks, and whenever I'm introducing them to the company, Ben, I'll get up and interview them, and I use form. I ask them, what am I going to find you doing on the weekend when you're not working? And we can go for a long time on that. Then we'll pivot to tell us about your family, and then finally we'll pivot to O, occupation. What have you done in your previous life? And what it does is it shows a genuine interest in other people. So as an example, Ben, I moved to the Gold Coast back in 2000, and when did I move? 2002. And I didn't know any people. I moved over for business reasons, but I didn't have any social connections whatsoever outside of business. So what I did is I volunteered for the Make-A-Wish Foundation, which I'd done back in Perth. So I figured I might as well continue. So I joined the Gold Coast chapter of the Make-A-Wish Foundation. I was helping with these beautiful wishes for these beautiful kids, which is another story for another day, but just filled my heart every time I did it. But part of that role was to try and create awareness and try and fundraise. And so there was this Rotary group, Ben, at the top of Mount Tambourine, which was up in the hinterland just out from the Gold Coast. And I'd been invited there to speak on behalf of the Make-A-Wish Foundation. Now, Ben, I wanted to do it because I wanted to meet some people, but I must admit at the time I was incredibly nervous about this speaking opportunity because I didn't know anyone, and it was quite daunting. It was at night time. So what happened is we had this meal. So I sat next to the president of, I'm pretty sure it was Rotary, and I just decided to ask. We sat in a square formation in tables having dinner, which meant that I could stand up and deliver my keynote and people didn't have to move. And so I asked the president, I said, who's this person sitting next to me? And proceeded to tell me the person's name, their backstory. And so what we did is we actually went all the way around the table, and I reckon there's probably 15 or 16 people in the room. And I started my keynote by getting up and saying, special thanks to the president who was next to me, and I said, and he did this, this, and this. And then I methodically went through every single person in the room. I said them by name. I said what their backstory was, what they did. And Ben, I can tell you that I've never been received more graciously, more enthusiastically, more positively in any keynote note that I've ever done in my life from that night, largely because I didn't know at the time that I was doing that fundamental technique that Dale Carnegie was talking about in 1937, showing an active interest in other people. I did it as a form of insecurity, Ben. I was so nervous and I was so insecure that I shone the light on everyone else as a way to divert the attention away from me. And we raised a lot of funds, and it was so successful, and it largely just shows the benefit of showing a genuine interest in other people. So I didn't know what I was doing at the time, Ben, but I have done it, and it was amazing. So again, folks, I want to encourage you to take the Mindset Minute as a life hack this week and implement it in your life and show genuine interest in other people. Hey, Ben, what's making property news?
Well, Bryce, I think you came across an article, didn't you, earlier this week? And I thought we'll start there because, I mean, who would have thought in stage 4 lockdown that you could actually buy property in Melbourne? It's quite extraordinary because technically it's very difficult, isn't it?
Well, it is, and I just wanted to highlight this as a way to show the community that people are shuffling in their seat to get comfortable, even during stage 4 lockdown, because this particular agent, his name was Sam Hobbs, had done a number of sales, $13 million in sales in just 7 days, right? So I'm not trying to fluff the pillows of a real estate agent, other than to say someone was trying to navigate a situation that they find themselves in, largely because there is pent-up demand for buyers who want to buy, who are actually frustrated about the fact that they can't buy. So they found a way to get through it, Ben, and made the transactions happen. So I just wanted to use that as a way of saying, my mum keeps ringing me, Ben, are you all right over there in Melbourne? Like, she watches the news and thinks that it's Armageddon. I said, yes, Mum, I'm okay. You need to worry about me getting a divorce because we've got kids homeschooling. So it takes a village to raise a child, Ben, but it takes a vineyard to homeschool them. So there is pent-up demand from owner-occupiers who are keen to buy, and I just thought that is an anecdote to show that there is demand here for the right properties, Ben. And if you've been listening to us for 299 plus 1 episodes, you will know what are the right properties to buy. So
I'll give you some context, Bryce, in terms of over last 7 days in terms of the auction clearance rates. They're surprised that they are incredibly better than I expected, right? In terms of, so in Melbourne, there were 41 auctions on the weekend and 37 of those properties. In other words, a clearance rate of 73% sold. Another, high example, where we got inner south, there were 33 properties for auction and 26 of them sold. Northeast, we saw, basically 26 sold. So it's just incredible in terms of, some auction clearance rates as high as 73, 68, 70 for those sub-regions. Some other areas aren't, as strong. So take, for example, obviously the West, we saw that the total auctions were 22, 15 sold. But it just goes to show they are doing these virtual auctions and they're getting some results. And so I'm interested to see what happens come, the removal of stage 4 and we get back into having, open for inspections and we have a pretty, sort of very strong spring selling season. I expect it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, it'll be an interesting September, Ben. Usually quiet because of finals and those sorts of things, but I think it'll be the most consistent September we've had in a while. So good stuff, Ben. That is what's making news at this stage, but it's free gift time, Ben.
It is. Here we are for our 300th. We're giving out a present, and we've mentioned it a couple of times before for those people who've listened to some of our previous episodes, but we finally have launched Money Stretch, Bryce.
Come on.
So Money Stretch is a new application. So it's a new tool within the My Wealth portal. Yes, the free My Wealth portal, which also has our Money Smarts and Money Fit. It also, can look after all of your loans and gives you structures and dashboards and so forth. Completely free to use.
Yeah, but how much to upgrade to Money Stretch, Ben?
How much we're going to charge for Money Stretch? No, we're not, Bryce. It's completely
what?
free. So Money Stretch is completely free. Now, what does it do? What does it do? Okay, so it's got a fancy name, but what does it do? It works out how long your money reserves will last before you run out of cash. So in other words, if your income, it is very timely, if your income was to change and it knows basically what sort of cash reserves you have, or, and it knows money in, money out each month, it works out basically how long your money will last you. Now, there's some really interesting ways in which it does that. It has an interactive graph. You put your income in, you put your expenditures in, and it creates a sandpit. So it doesn't touch your live data. So you're not forever going, oh, well, I'm going to move. No, we create a whole new sandpit. And what you do inside that sandpit is you effectively look at your baseline, your current spending, and then we can play around with essential and discretionary spending. And we can also play around with income impacts. And that will then tell you how much your money will last you. So that should give you, because the goal of this tool, as is the goal of all of the tools, whether it's mindset tools we give you, is about building awareness, and it's about building confidence around your money. So many people that we have worked with over the journey, if we ask them a simple question, what happens if, how long would your money last if something was to happen and you had to stop all of your income? No one has any idea in terms of how long that time frame will be. This is a free and very, very simple to use and easy to understand tool that's available on the My Wealth portal, which the URL is tpc.moneysmarts.com.au. It's free. When you register, go online. We use our Money Smart stretch in terms of gather, sort, and calculate as stages to come through, and then you open up this whole world that is effectively your money management home, and potentially for some, their future wealth creation home. So a single platform that is going to portal your money into the future and show you what's possible. And Money Stretch is now live. So if you haven't checked it out before, do yourself a favor, as Molly Meldrum would say, and give it a go. And Bryce, as a little bonus, today, now obviously this comes out on Thursday, we're doing a live demo of this also on Facebook. And so if you go to our Facebook group, The Property Couch, there will be a recording of that. If you're coming to this late, there will be a recording on that if you want to just check out a demo of it. And then again, it's free to use. You can put your nicknames in there. It's two-factor authentication. So there's high security on it as well. That's basically what we're about.
Very good. So there's a bit in that, Ben. So the gift is for existing existing users of the platform. All they need to do is go and log in using their existing credentials. For those people who are thinking, what is this, Ben? You've said go to tpc.moneysmarts.com.au. You can go and sign up and you get straight access to Money Smarts, Money Fit, and now Money Stretch. Ben, there's another significant URL that we need to give, and that's makemoneysimpleagain.com.au, because if they're going to go, for those users who haven't used it for a little while, they can go and get the book and read the manual so they know how to use it. And for those users who will come in for the first time today, that book will definitely help them. So makemoneysimpleagain.com.au. So there's a fair bit in that, Ben, and that's there was a fair bit of work behind the scenes going to pull that together. But I think for a lot of people to be able to go and see, once they've got their information in there, they can see how long their money will stretch for. Gee whiz, that's going to give people some peace of mind, Ben.
Yeah, it's really simple to navigate and to use. Someone who feels worried about money or thinks that these sort of complicated formulas and spreadsheets, it is so simple to use. It's just as simple of bringing money in and then basically playing around with it and then seeing the consequences in a forward forecast. It's really simple to use. So there's no excuse. As Jaemin sort of talking about, don't blame anyone else. If you want to know and get some confidence around that, because some people are taking money out of super, Bryce, when I don't know why they need to, right? Once they work out, well, okay, so if my income was to drop by 40% and my partner's income was to drop by 30%, we're actually okay. Yep. And so by taking that money out of super, you've obviously stopped that money working harder for you. So, these are the sort of things that we hope will be a good news story for all Australians to start thinking about how they look at their money. And then when they see that, they go, okay, well, I've got confidence. I don't need to do anything right now, but I also know how to tweak things to make my money last longer if I need to.
Very good. There you go, folks. tpc.moneysmarts.com.au. Go and check that out. We'd love to see how far your money stretches. Hey, Ben, I just want to, before we sign off, just want to raise the bat to you. Well done on 300. It's been a pleasure. Let's see if we're still around for 600. What do you reckon?
I hope so, because I love it so much, and we've got people to help, we've got people to guide, and we want, as Jaemin said, we want them to be the hero of their stories. Our job is to just give you the opportunity to see that there is a pathway forward, but you're going to have to do the work. But we're here to help you.
We want to be Yoda, and just a little bat raising too to the real brains trust behind this in terms of Ivis and Emma too, Ben, to get us through to 300. But folks, until next week.
Knowledge is empowering, but only if you act on it.
See you next week, folks.
Hey there, folks. Bryce Holdaway here. Before you go, if you're new to our community and only listen to maybe a handful of episodes, I thoroughly recommend that you go all the way back to episode number 1, where we unpack all of the foundations when it comes to property investing. Now, for those of you that might be a little bit time poor, I've got good news for you. We have a binge guide that you can download straight away, which summarizes the first 20 episodes where Ben and I unpack the foundational pillars of the A, B, C, D, and so much more. And you can get that straight away. If you go to thepropertycouch.com.au/TPC20, you can download it and consume it whenever you want. It's completely free and available now. And for those of you, just a quick reminder that nothing we've spoken about today constitutes financial advice. We recommend that you reach out to your licensed professional advisor so that you can look at your unique circumstances before acting on any information. Now don't forget, go to thepropertycouch.com.au/TPC20 and get your binge guide today.